Hey everyone, it's your boy Spider Drift here. Today we're going to be talking about the LEGO Fortnite community's reactions to modes like, Brick Life and the upcoming LEGO Expeditions mode, which I am very hyped for. I play LEGO Odyssey and Brick Life faithfully. I mostly love playing Brick Life because, it's a structured version of Odyssey. I love Odyssey, but Odyssey is like a big sandbox. You can customize and build whatever and stuff like that. I'm not a custom builder like everybody else. I mostly just use the prefabs and stuff from, I got all the Lego passes and I even got most of the Lego sets in the item shop and stuff. So I mostly just do the prefabs. I'm not really like a custom builder or something like that. I will probably make like vehicles here and there, but small but not too big or anything like that. Um, but yeah, that's a little bit about me and how I play. But here's why I think we as players should probably give all these Lego modes a chance, especially Brick Life and the upcoming Lego Expeditions mode, you know? Um, let's just start off first by saying that we're not game developers, you know? Maybe some of us know a little knowledge on certain things on how to make, certain games and stuff like that, I guess. But I mean, it's easy for us to demand features, fixes, or massive updates, but we don't see immense complexity behind the scenes, Game development involves intricate coding, assess creation, testing, performance, across countless devices, server maintenance, property hurdles. I can go on and on about, behind the scenes of what they have to do. A simple bug fix can be a monumental task, and a new feature might require, rebuilding core systems. I don't feel like Epic Games is neglecting any mode out of spite. Development resources are finite, and what appears to be a slow update cycle for one mode might be due to significant work happening on foundational systems, other modes, or even unannounced content. Patience is key in life and in the gaming industry. Lego Fortnite Odyssey at its core is a true sandbox. This means boundless player freedom. You can build anything, anywhere, and while incredible for creativity, this presents huge technical challenges for developers. Stuff like performance, data management, saving, loading, and persisting every unique player-built world without corruption is massive undertaking. Scalability. You're adding new complex features without breaking an existing player creations or crippling performance. It's like changing tires to a speeding car. This isn't about abandoning Odyssey, but rather, making strategic choices to ensure its stability and longevity. Sometimes controlled expansion is necessary for a sandbox game to remain playable for its wide audience and stuff. You know, I'm not a custom builder. I can't customize a big, castle or a big tropical resort and stuff. Near the Lost Isles. A big pirate base. Stuff like that. I know not everyone wants to spend hundreds of hours constructing mega mansions from individual bricks and other materials that the Lego Fortnite team offers us. We can make wall pieces, roof pieces, etc. Many players like me, I just enjoy using the prefabs that they give us and stuff. I feel like they're already unique, and if I want to modify something like brick a wall or something, I can do something like that. Like I'll do like little changes like that. I enjoy smaller, more focused builds, or simply just interacting with a well-designed environment and stuff. Which is why I play Brick Life a lot for. I play Brick Life because of it's a structured version of Odyssey. And I'm not saying I don't like Odyssey or anything like that. It's just I switch between the two modes. Brick Life is, more structured environment where you immerse yourself in Brick Life as Lego figurines. It validates a different type of creativity, and it appeals to players who prefer cozy social experiences over hardcore survival. I prefer both modes. Like I said, I switch between Odyssey and Brick Life. If I feel like I'm tired of Odyssey and stuff like that, like I used to go, I go every day in my Odyssey world to fight the Storm King. I do it daily. But lately the Storm King has been laggy and stuff, which again, I feel like that's not Odyssey's fault. There's a lot of things that's being added in Odyssey and maybe the engine, the sandbox itself just can't handle it. I go in my Odyssey world every day to fight the Storm King. I go to the Storm Dungeon sometimes to get the Eye of the Storms, and then once I have enough, I go to the gate to fight the Storm King, get the Shadowhorn fragments to make Shadowhorn weapons and stuff. That's how I do it. Then after that, I get off Lego Odyssey and go in Brick Life, relax, and immerse myself. I'm doing the same thing. And what I'm doing in Odyssey is just It's just Brick Life is just more structured, and I feel like that's nothing wrong. I can switch between the two modes. In Brick Life, I can't customize. I can't, we can't build, we can't customize and stuff like that. We can't. There's limits to your decorations and stuff. But is that really a bad thing? Because that building is limited, is limitless in Brick, in not limitless, but I don't know. It's infinite. My bad. In Odyssey, you know, you gotta take it's loading in the stuff that you're building and stuff. It's a sandbox at the end of the day, regardless of what mode you're playing. Cozy, survival, expert. I play expert faithfully because survival is just like is kind of like sandbox to me at this point. You know. The new Lego Expeditions mode, it sounds like a structured co-op action adventure mode with missions, hero classes, and PvE combat. It sounds like it promises an excitement of adventure and progression within a more guided experience, much like classic Lego story games. You could call it a structured adventure version of, Lego Odyssey. You know, I get that Odyssey is like a survival type adventure, but again, it is a sandbox. Stuff is like rendering in. There's not really a lot, there's not really a lot much to do. You're just customizing and building your own type of Lego world and stuff. But Lego Expeditions, it's a structured adventure type of mode. Probably blending the exploration of Odyssey with the curated objectives of a brick life like experience. Fortnite is evolving into a vast platform for diverse gaming experiences, y'all. I need some of y'all to understand that. The goal isn't for one Lego mode to do everything, but for the Lego Fortnite hub to offer a variety of distinct gameplay styles. By having Odyssey, which is a survival sandbox, Brick Life, which is also a social simulation, and Expeditions, which is a structured adventure type of mode, Epic can cater to a much wider audience. This multi-model strategy ensures the game's longevity and allows different players to find their niche, within the Lego universe. Instead of seeing these new modes as competition or betrayal of Odyssey, which is what most of the Lego community is misunderstanding, which they're assuming that, and they're misunderstanding what Epic is really doing, or at least the Lego Fortnite team is doing. Let's recognize them as, valuable additions that expand the Lego Fortnite universe. It's a part of Odyssey. These are just two modes that are part of Odyssey. Let's have some little empathy for developers because again, we're not game developers. These are challenges for them. So we got to be open minded. We got to, these developers they're maybe they're challenging themselves. They're being open minded to add new things and stuff like that. Yeah, some of us didn't ask for these things, but in the long run, we'll appreciate these things. All this stuff is evolving. If stuff is an issue, I'm sure they're going to remove it. But we have to like come correct. We got to come correct that you know there's ways to talk about what we need, in a mode or something like that. If a mode is lacking on something, there's ways to talk to a game community about that. We shouldn't have to belittle a mode that has nothing to do with another mode. Well, they're part of the same mode, but we shouldn't have to belittle another mode just because we think they're giving that mode attention because they think another mode is lacking. In my opinion, Lego Fortnite Odyssey has had its updates. We've had the farming update, we had the vehicles update, we had the Star Wars update, we had the Lost Isles update. We had a bunch of updates in Lego Odyssey. Let's give these other modes a chance. Lego Odyssey is just a sandbox, but you know these other modes are going to be like, I'm not saying advanced versions of them, but these are going to be like what Odyssey can't do. Odyssey can't really handle stuff like this. You would think they can handle these kind of engines that these different type of modes? You really think they could just add these modes to Odyssey? No, Odyssey is just too laggy for that. Odyssey needs to be stable, so it has to just stay. They just let them add little things here and there. If they keep adding things in Odyssey, it's just going to make your world laggy, and then you're going to keep complaining about it. Y'all don't understand when they add these things that y'all so crave, it makes your world laggy, and then you complain more. I feel like we're the problem sometimes. You know, I do feel like we're the problem sometimes. But that's just this is just my opinion. I feel like I did get some little key points here and there. This is I understand that people have opinions on these games, just like how what I'm saying right now is an opinion, but I'm challenging other people's opinions. That's how I see it. You know, I love Lego Fortnite Odyssey. Well, I love Lego Fortnite Lego Fortnite Odyssey, love Lego Fortnite Brick Life, and I'm gonna love this upcoming Lego Fortnite Expeditions mode. What hero class are y'all choosing? And after I'm done with Expeditions, I'm gonna be chilling in Brick Life, and then maybe I'll check out the Spires and Odyssey. We have variety now, y'all. Can we please be variety gamers? We shouldn't have to be one-minded about a certain mode just because we play that mode. If we just have more perspective and literally see the Lego mode is like merging all these together, especially with the bus stations. You know, we see that Odyssey is literally connecting with all these other modes. You know, just give these modes a chance. That's all I ask. But that's all I have, y'all. That's all I have. See y'all later.